Coming up on French Kiss.
My first French kiss, OMG.
Do you think it's healthy to stay friends with your exes?
You mean some people are against you even having an ex?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the biggest red flag.
The person you're with today is the way they are because / thanks to their experiences.
Of course. I have a really bad track record. Every time I dated somebody, I was like, this is the one. I'm going to marry this woman. I'm going to have babies with this woman. Every time. I think it's an important part of your life is to go through a real heartbreak because that really builds character.
Yeah. And then you meet the love of your and then you meet the love of your life. And then you meet the love of your life.
I want to keep those 3 takes.
No! Hi everyone. Thank you for joining in on today's episode. We talked about exes, about heartbreaks, about breakups, about all the women that Loïc has dated in his serial dater past life.
You showed my true colors in this episode.
Indeed. We hope you enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. This is French Kiss. Hello. Welcome back to French Kiss. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's episode is about exes.
Ooh.
Yeah, exes. We all have some. Most of us have some. We all talk about them. Sometimes too much. Sometimes not enough. And most of the time not in the best way.
True.
Per se. Some see exes as lessons, other as mistakes, and for some they're still part of their lives in a way or another. But what happens after the breakup?
They become exes after the breakup, right?
Yeah.
Exes, what happens after the breakup? Sorry, that's funny to me. I'm not. This is a great intro.
It is.
Great intro.
No, but what happens? Like, do you erase them entirely from your life, or do you believe in staying friends? How does it work? How much of this is cultural? Yeah, all these questions. We're gonna talk about today.
Can't wait.
And maybe some juicy personal stories from Loïc.
Ooh.
If he's willing to share.
I'm always willing to share.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a sharer.
I'm a giver, baby.
You giver. I'm a giver. I give.
Like Oprah Winfrey. Let's go.
J'ai pas la ref. Je vois qui c'est, mais
Oprah
she's a
Winfrey,
giver.
at the end of all of her shows, she gets, you get a car and you get a car. This
marrant.
is, you get a story, you get a story. Anyways, I'm not trying to
Everybody's
compare
here
myself
for
to Oprah
Loïc's.
Winfrey.
Everybody's here for Loïc's stories. Anyway, so.
That's not true. They're here for your wit and charm and your cute little accent.
Yeah. My mistakes.
Sure.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's go. Okay, Loïc. You've dated American woman, French woman, and even
Women. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Loïc.
I'm not going to cut this out. I know you think I'm going to cut this out. I'm not.
Okay, Loïc. Loïc, you've dated American woman.
Women.
C'est un oui, quoi.
Women.
Oui. Women. You've dated American women, French women, and even Mexican ones, right?
Yes.
Do you think cultural background plays a big role in relationships? And why?
Okay, so this is before they become exes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Way before. And way before you met me and decided to marry me.
So have my relationships felt different based on the nationalities of the women that I've dated?
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting question. I think that when I was in like middle school and high school is when I felt the biggest difference, I think, weirdly enough. My first French kiss, OMG.
OMG.
My first ever French kiss was with a girl, a woman. Well, she was a girl at the time. We were very young.
Was she French?
She was French.
Yes!
She was an exchange student from Valbonne.
Okay.
And she came and she stayed at my neighbor's house for a week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Practical.
Yeah, and there were also 2 exchange students staying with me for a week. And so all 5 of us decided we would hang out at my neighbor's place and we would play hide and seek or some and
Or Chabit.
and essentially we made out at that. And that was my first ever actual make out or first ever French kiss, as we like to say.
How old were you?
I think I was like 13 or something like
Okay.
that. And that was when I realized, okay, the French are ahead of us when it comes to like, this
Kissing?
kind of stuff. Well, everything like dating.
Okay.
I remember they like in their school in Valbonne, they were already like they've been having like affairs and like cheating on one another and like dating. And they've been doing like they were already doing like stuff in the bedroom, if you know what I mean. We were very young and for me at the time, like I don't even think I had started, exploring my own body and these people were already doing these things. And I remember when we made out, I was like taken aback. I was like, "Oh wow, she's going for it. Like she knows what she's doing. I have no idea what I'm doing." So
French people are very romantic.
so for me, it felt like okay, that's a big difference. And maybe it's not like that in every school. Maybe it was just because my school was like a small private school. But yeah, we were clearly behind that school in terms of that kind of stuff. So culturally, I think, but I do think that culturally there's an openness to sex and nudity and all that stuff in France that there isn't in the U.S., especially when it comes to kids. I know that in the U.S., like the rating for movies, they're a lot stricter on everything nudity, but very lenient on violence. And it's sort of the opposite in France. I tend to agree more with the French version because no harm can be done with nudity. A lot of harm can be done with violence, which is the nature of violence. But yeah, I always thought that was kind of strange. But I do think that there's an openness to that kind of stuff. Whereas in the U.S., they're a lot more anal about it, which is a terrible expression for this context, but they are.
Can I just say something?
Tell me.
It's funny that you say that because if you compare France to Germany, we are super prude.
Really?
Like in Germany, they're super open about sexuality.
Okay.
And like seeing like sex stuff, in advertising, social media, movies and stuff. They're more free and open about it.
Gotcha.
So
well, it
depends on which country you compare.
Of course, but I think that was my biggest. U.S. versus France. There's no competition. France kills them in terms of sexuality. I guess. I think that was the biggest difference that I ever felt, and I'm not sure that it really comes down to I know that this podcast and this show is about cultural differences, but I also truly believe in like the difference of individuals within a culture. And a lot of people can be on one extreme, like there are very prude people in France, but there's also very sexually open people in the US. So it's like, but it just happens that the society in general in the US and the whole system seems to be a little more prude. And I think that plays a role in how we deal with our sexuality growing up. I think they talk about abstinence a lot more in the U.S. and not a lot less in France. So yeah, that's a long-winded way of saying that I felt that difference a lot when I was young, but then over the course of dating people when I was a little older, it really came down to the individual rather than where they came from.
Okay, so you didn't see like specific traits.
I don't think so.
In like American or Mexican women you've dated.
I mean, yes, but man, it's really hard to pinpoint what those differences are.
Okay. Perfect. Do you think it's healthy to stay friends with your exes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and I stand by this statement.
Yes.
I actually think that for a really long time I thought that people who have zero contact with all of their exes tended to be a sort of a red flag for me. Because I was like, you ended on bad terms with all the people you dated? Like, that seems like maybe...
Might be an issue here.
Yeah, there might be an issue. That's how I feel. I also understand that there are probably some circumstances where somebody dated 3 people and those 3 people were like horrible, terrible people. And so, it doesn't mean that they don't talk to those 3 people anymore, that person is problematic. But I've always kind of been like, that's a little strange, It's like when somebody's telling you a story about somebody and they're bitching about them.
Yeah.
And as the story progresses, you realize that the person telling you the story is actually a problem.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh, okay, it might have been you.
Yeah. There's a difference between that it's a matter of fact that your relationship ended on bad terms, and like truly applying this to your life as a rule,
Oh, yeah.
not wanting to be friends with
Right.
your exes,
Understood.
or not wanting your partner
Yeah.
to be friends with
Well,
their exes.
I think that the biggest reason why people think that you shouldn't stay in contact with your ex is because, well, there's a past there. We've slept together. We've had like a physical relationship together. If you want to start dating other people, it's important for you to like move on to the next chapter of your life. I hear that. I don't necessarily agree with it because I think it is possible to have had that experience with somebody and that your relationship evolves into something else. And now you see each other you have a different relationship. I think that's possible. I mean, it could also depend on the person. And that's why, it's not like a rule for me to be like, okay, if you have no contact with your ex, you're a problem. But for me, I tend to be a little like, it gives me a little suspicion of like, maybe that means that. But I totally hear the thing of like, it's really hard for me to separate the person that I had sex with and the person that I loved as a human being that's my friend. And I just can't distinguish them. So I have to separate myself from them. But I do think there's a difference between like just cutting ties and not talking to them and being on bad terms with your ex.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm always like questioning people, like when you're in a relationship, blaming your partner for being friends with their exes, or just like having exes, which is a big red flag, super problematic.
Oh, you mean some people are against you even having an ex?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the biggest red flag.
Yeah, that happened to me, but I don't understand how you can't see the fact that the person you're with today is the way they are because / thanks to their experiences.
Of course.
And their relationships they
And that
had.
includes, the people
and
that they dated.
exes. Like,
sure.
My first relationship personally was trash. It was bad. It was super unhealthy, super toxic. Like I would never be friend with that guy today. But it was so necessary, and this taught me so many things. And I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't have this relationship.
Yeah.
And in terms
But that doesn't mean that you're thankful to that person for being the way they are either. You know what I mean?
No, but I'm thankful for the relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you should, like as a partner, I think you should embrace that because they've come a long way, and it's also often a matter of timing.
Yeah.
And if they're ready for you at this precise moment, it's because of the
Yeah,
past.
and you come out stronger on the other side. That being said, I do think that you can also say that you have some scars and some, some things about you have some insecurities that build up from past relationships, and that's hard to be thankful for.
Yes.
But yeah, we are the people that we are for the bad and the good. And yeah, it's just a part of our lives, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you friends with some exes?
Yeah. I have a really bad track record. Yeah. Before you, I've done some really, really dodgy things, including cheating. which is not good at all. But yeah, I've done some really bad stuff. So there are a lot of people that I don't talk to for that reason because I messed up big time. But I am close to a lot of exes. We both invited our exes at our weddings.
Yeah, they couldn't come for various reasons.
Various reasons. One of them being.
But yeah, regarding my new girlfriend, I don't think that it's a good idea that I come to your wedding. What do you not understand in the sentence? I invite you to my wedding with another man. I moved on.
Right.
There's
no danger of.
I am writing a new chapter of my life. There's no threat or. It's so confusing to me.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I understand. But yeah, I am close to several of my exes, and I think I'm lucky enough to say that I only ever dated really nice women. All the exes I can think of were like really nice people, which makes my track record make even less sense. But I was
even worse,
stupid 18, 19-year-old, maybe even more.
22.
But yeah, so that makes it easy for me to come out of these relationships wanting to stay friends with them. A lot of the times I maybe felt trapped in a relationship and I just wanted to date other people and try new things with other people. That's usually what led me to want to break up. Not necessarily that, they were bad people. Or maybe just, the chemistry wasn't right and it wasn't working and I just wanted to move on. It sounds like I broke up every time. It's not the case. But yeah, the fact that I dated so many people that I think are just wonderful people, wonderful human beings, makes my situation, it makes it easy for me to say that, I'm still friends with a lot of them, because they're just wonderful people. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you think different cultures have different ways of dealing with breakups?
You better boo-doo-bub-bub. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely think that cultures treat the ex differently.
Yeah. Like, for example, French are more like, let's stay friends, whereas American prefer a fresh cut.
I think so. I think culturally speaking, in the US, it's more accepted that like you stop being friends with. Whereas in France, they're more open-minded to like. But again, I think this comes back to the idea of like sex maybe isn't seen as the same thing in France. In France, sex can be seen as something that's a little bit more casual, which I know is a stereotype, but I do think in some ways it's true. Which means that you're able to have sex with somebody and like you continue to have just a friendly relationship with this person. Whereas in the US, maybe the concept of sex is like a little more intense. And it's like, they saw me naked. I cannot be friends with this person.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that's more the case. But because of that, I think it might be easier for French people to stay friends with their exes than it is for Americans. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think social media has changed the way we deal with the breakups and exes? Like it's harder to move on when you see the life online?
Oh. I thought you were talking about like memes. Like have memes made us change our minds about... Memes affect us a lot. Okay?
Oh, yeah. Memes is a whole new way of communicating.
Yeah, it's like therapy for a lot of people. Anyways, to answer your question, yes, 100%. I think it's harder to break ties with somebody. Like when our grandparents dated, if they broke up.
They didn't break up.
That's true, actually. They didn't break up
there
at
was
the time.
No divorce.
I'm just saying at that time, if you ever got separated from somebody, it was so easy to just not ever see them ever. Whereas today with social media and the fact that, generally we have the same friends. So even if you unfollow them, you'll still like my ex. We blocked each other, unfollowed each other years ago. But because I still follow people that still live in the same city as her and are still friends with her, I still see her quite a bit. And like I feel like I handled it okay once I moved out to France because I was like, we're moving on. But yeah, I mean it, for somebody who's like really, and I've been in that position when it's really hard to move on, and you see this person constantly, too often. It's got to be rough. It's so rough. It's really hard to deal with constant reminders of like a heartbreak. So yeah, but also maybe it's exposure therapy and just seeing them like makes it easier over time. I don't know. But yeah, it's not the same approach at all.
Mm-hmm.
On top of the fact that you constantly see them, I think it's also harder personally to break ties because like again, there was a time where you just deleted their phone numbers and it's like whoopsie daisy. I mean, you could always find a way, but now you gotta delete the millions of pictures you have on your phone, delete their number, block them on Instagram, block them on Snapchat. You gotta block them on everything. And even then, there are things that you forget. I still find pictures of my exes all the time that like I thought I had deleted. It's like it just stays there. So yeah, I think the fact that with technology, just breaking up is harder. Modern breakups are quite different.
I agree too. I like this one. If exes were like job references, what do you think they would say about you?
Oh man, I would not get a lot of jobs. Whoa. Yeah, what would it say about me? I think the biggest sort of, man, how do I say this? I think the recurring thing that came up in almost all my relationships was that I had this capacity of making people feel, I'm going to start with the good stuff, but I had a capacity of making people feel extremely loved and seen. That was sort of my superpower.
That's true.
And you know, that's what a lot of people, that's all they want out of a relationship is just to be seen and be loved. And
that's just what you want in life.
Right.
Basically.
Exactly. and I think that was my atout. That was my trump card.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I also, because I had this capacity of making somebody feel loved, it meant that I also had the total opposite. Like, I also had the capacity of doing the total opposite, which was making them feel neglected. And what it created, especially for my longest relationship, was this toxic codependency because I was sort of like a drug to her, but I was somebody that kept putting her in withdrawal and coming back. So basically, I would make her feel extremely loved, and then I would take it away because I would be, I would neglect her, and I would,
dismiss
her. I would be flirty with other people. I would make her feel really bad about herself. But because days ago I had made her feel so loved, and she would stick to it, and she'd be like, I want another hit.
Mm-hmm.
It really was like a drug. And so I would come back and like again be super, and this is like super common toxic behavior.
Yeah.
But I had a tendency to do that. And I think that would be in big red letters on my resume. I think it would be in big red letters on my resume. Unfortunately, yeah. I don't think I have a great track record. So that would be the big thing, I think. So yeah, it's not a pretty resume. I don't know how I ended up with you. But yeah, I was privileged.
Ended up?
I mean, I don't know how I got you. I don't know how I. That's what I mean.
Oh, okay. I thought you didn't know what reference I would put you. You know?
Oh, no.
But you will never be my ex. What are you saying?
No, I'm saying, yeah, I don't know how I got so lucky because, again, yeah, I think that, I, the fact that I'm such a people pleaser definitely comes into play when it comes to my bad track record. Curiously enough, I had a hard time wrapping my head around it, but I think it was constantly wanting to um, please everybody. I didn't want to break up with anybody. That's usually what ended up. That's usually what led me to cheating on people. Was that I didn't want to be with this person anymore, and I wanted to move on, but I also didn't want them to not like me and hate me for breaking up with them. So I would just do the worst thing, which was cheat on them. And I really think that it comes, and I don't say this at all in a positive way. I mean this in a totally negative way. I was a people pleaser, but for selfish reasons. Not because I want people to, and people pleasing is very selfish.
Of course, it's selfish.
It's super selfish.
Yeah.
You do it because you want people to like you,
Yes.
not to make people happy.
Yeah.
But my people pleasing tendencies made it so I would stay with them and not break their hearts. But then, I would cheat on them and get caught cheating, and that would just be so much worse. And so, yeah, that would be my
Okay.
resume. Not great, not fantastic.
But I feel super lucky myself because in these two parts of the reference you're describing, I personally just received the good one. I just feel super loved. I never feel neglected or dismissed with you.
Well, I think this goes back to what you were saying about being thankful for past relationships, because
Exactly.
I think I learned a lot from those. And also, after a certain age, you just what you want.
Yeah.
And also, fortunately and unfortunately, just meeting the right person makes it easier to just behave properly, I guess. I don't know. Men are terrible. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, it took me meeting the right person, I guess, to but I also never wanted out of the relationship. So who knows, if early on I didn't think this was working out, maybe I would have kept people pleasing and
You would have kept repeating the same pattern.
yeah. So
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. Okay.
I don't
Okay,
come
okay.
off as a very lovable person, but this is me. This is who I am.
And thank you for your honesty and transparency.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
If you could give your younger self, one piece of advice about dating, what would it be?
Ooh, I mean, my first instinct would be to just say honesty, but it's never quite that simple. But I think it should be that simple. But yeah, I think just be honest. Just be honest would be my first one, where it's if you want out, just communicate that. Of course it's gonna hurt that person, but it's so much better than doing all the shit you did. So that's my first thing. And the other thing is take in due time is my biggest thing. It's things will fall into place. I grew up on Disney and rom-coms, and every time I dated somebody, I was this is the one, and I would just go full in every time. And I was I'm gonna marry this woman, I'm gonna have babies with this woman every time. And yeah, it was really intense. And you know what's funny is that the first time I truly 100%, and we were both on the same page about this, decided, and when we dated, hey, we're gonna be casual.
Yeah, that's true.
We're not going to get married. We're not going to have children.
Yeah, and we didn't even consider ourselves a couple.
Yeah, for a really long time.
At first.
And I think that actually, weirdly, made me go in the other direction, which was hey, wait, I want to marry this woman. I want to have children with this woman. Even though every other time where I was I want to marry this person, I want to have children with this person, it wasn't the right time. And I think it's because I was so insistent on this is true love. This is our forever love. And that intensity made it so it didn't work. I think it played a role in that. So I think those would be the two things I would tell my younger self is be patient. You know,
Yeah.
you'll find the right person. It doesn't have to be the first person. And be honest. Just be honest. I'd be friends with a lot more of my exes who, again, were amazing people. And on top of that, I would have hurt a lot less people on the way.
I would add our little motto, which is when there is a doubt, there's no doubt.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
That your sister loves.
When there's a doubt, there's no doubt, which basically means if you're unsure about somebody, then you're sure it's not the right person. But here's the thing.
It's a bit cheesy, but it's so true.
I don't know if I 1,000,000% believe in it the way you do, because for me there is this thing of if you're unsure, basically what the mentality that puts us in is like the moment you have doubts, leave. And I don't think that's the right way of looking at it either. I think that, there's always going to be moments where you're going to doubt and it'll have nothing to do with the other person and it'll have nothing to do with your relationship. And it's just because you're not in a good place and you're feeling down. But if you just work at it a little bit, if it's too hard, then call it a day and just,
Yeah.
You got to give yourself a little bit in order for relationships to work. And if you pass a little hurdle of like, I'm not sure, maybe on the other side, it'll be the right person. And I'm sure that there have been so many cases of people going through that where they were like, yeah, there was a time where, I mean, if that had been said to you when I started courting you, as we say,
That's true.
we never would have dated because if one of your friends had said
doubtful,
you were super doubtful, you didn't want to date me. If one of your friends had said, listen, if there's a doubt, there's no doubt about me, maybe you would have closed that door and you would have been like, yeah, you're right. I'm not sure if I want to date him, so I'm not going to date him. Whereas you kind of like thought about it, time went by, and then you realized, well, maybe. So a part of me believes in if there's a doubt, there's no doubt. I understand that motto, but I don't, like I said, 1,000,000% believe in it.
it might apply to, specific situations. But also, maybe it comes from the fact that I function a lot. I'm
On instinct.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I trust my body. I
Yeah,
trust
that's
my
good.
guts.
That's good.
But I rarely can explain.
Well, that's what a gut feeling is. It's
Yeah.
just a gut feeling. You can't rationalize it.
Yeah.
I do think it's important to listen to yourself and listen to your instinct and your gut. But I do think that, a little bit of rationalizing, like, why am I feeling this? Is it not because of exterior things and not just because of my relationship? And maybe if we work at it, we can make this work.
True. Yeah. Okay, one last question.
Okay.
Have you ever felt that you were living a cultural breakup cliche?
A cultural breakup cliche.
Yeah, like, for example,
What do you mean by that?
like French people are super dramatic and write love letters, or like American drawn up in ice cream and rom-coms, or Mexican are doing the telenovela style.
Sure.
Sure.
Like how we culturally depict breakups in different countries, you mean? If you think I ever went through that?
Yeah.
Man, that's funny. I think the most dramatic,
Yeah.
because I feel like all these examples you gave me were like very dramatic.
Yeah.
I think the most dramatic breakup I ever went through was in college. Or was it right after college? It was during that period. And I definitely spent my days, but I don't know if this is what you're describing, but it seems very similar to the typical breakup scenes in American movies where they're like crying in front of the TV, listening to music. Definitely went through that period.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, I've had some rough breakups.
Oh.
Where I just like would lay in bed, watch TV, and cry and eat.
Eat what?
Eat. I don't know why I'm thinking of dried mango. That's just kind
That's
of
super healthy.
yeah. It's my
for a
go-to.
breakup.
Yeah, it's not ice
What the
cream.
heck?
Um, but yeah, man, I've also done this thing. This was the lowest point for me. I think one of the lowest point. I called my ex who had just broken up with me. I called her, I think, like 50 times,
50?
something like that. Not 15, 50.
Yeah, 15.
50. And she didn't answer. And then I called her sister
Perfect.
like several times. I want to say like 20 times. And then she answered and she was like, "You can't call my sister like that." I was like, "But I just wanted to talk." Terrible, horrible. So yeah, yes. So I've gone through that. I think we all have. You know what? I also went through a breakup. I was in Montreal, and I don't know if we were together. It was kind of on and off, but I went to see my friends, but it was mostly to win her back, essentially, to secure our relationship. And by the end of the 2 days, it was clear it wasn't gonna happen. She was no longer interested in dating me, and I went to the airport, and I just started sobbing, and I sat on the floor, and I called my mom, and I was like, "She broke up with me. She ended it," and I was just like crying on the floor in the middle of the airport. And that was my cinematic moment.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this
Very
is some
cliche.
sitcom content.
Very, very cliche.
Rom-com.
Rom-com content, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So I think those were the closest things to what you were
Okay.
describing that I've ever experienced.
Okay.
What about you? Have you ever experienced like a very dramatic breakup?
I mean, yeah, but it was like a super long
Yeah.
process because we were always on and off. And there were a period of time that lasts super long, and I was just depressed.
Yeah.
I was just so depressed. Yeah, I cried a lot. But
What was the you played it recently in the living room and said, "This is the music I listened to when he broke up with me." What was it?
Underwater from Mika.
Little shout out to Mika. After this podcast,
Oh
listen
my
to Underwater. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, I think that's things that we have to, and our kid is probably going to go through these phases. I think everybody goes through these periods of like true heartbreak. I think it's an important part of your life is to go through a real heartbreak because that really builds character.
Yes.
Really, it's
And then you come back from your ashes.
yeah.
Comment on dit?
You come back stronger,
You come back stronger.
like a phoenix.
Like a phoenix. and then you meet the love of your and then you meet the love of your life. And then you meet the love of your life.
I want to keep those 3 takes.
No, you can't.
You're at my mercy because I edit these.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. There's that's what I would tell my younger self is there's light at the end of the tunnel. You'll
Yeah.
get there. Don't worry about it. This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. But also, this is not like it doesn't have to be a goal, in life to be in a relationship.
For sure.
Like you can be fully,
I'm glad you brought this up. Yes.
yeah, you can be fully fulfilled
Fully fulfilled.
alone by
Yeah.
yourself with no partner, and that's really important.
I went to a show recently by Noémie Delattre where she said something that really stuck with me. I don't know if we say it in English, but when you're not in a relationship in French, you say "je suis seul," which means I'm alone, which we definitely don't say in English. But you can see how
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
you can see how wrong it is to say "yeah, I'm alone."
alone.
Because you're not alone. You have your
Yeah.
friends, your family. Not being in a relationship doesn't mean you're alone.
Yeah.
And in French, when you're not in a relationship, you say "I'm alone," and I don't think we should say that. Because
Interesting.
you're not alone, and you don't have to be in a relationship to be, as you said, fulfilled. I totally agree with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Those were some good questions.
Yeah?
Thanks. Yeah.
And I think we're good.
I think people have a better
Understanding of your
Of-
past life,
and
of
of-
your past serial dater life.
Yeah, I guess people know the real Loïc now. What you gonna do?
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for those questions.
No, thank you. And thank you for your honesty.
My pleasure. My very big pleasure.
Yeah.
Yes, as you would say.
And my very big pleasure. And thank you guys for listening, for being with us today. We hope you enjoyed, and we will see you soon.
See you next week. Bye.